Hi guys, it is Westlin here with my partners in crime, TGXAndy, who is terrible at making top 10 lists, and we also have SquidSchilling, the former
Fuck
Wood 5
off.
player, so
Wood 2.
Wood 2
Wood
player.
2. And
Ooh.
I'm no longer in Wood. I did 1 day of solos, and by 1 day I mean like an hour, and then I remembered solos are terrible.
All right, well, so obviously his list is going to be disqualified on the premise that he doesn't like solos. Um, and Andy's is going to be disqualified on the premise that it's not my list, so that's kind of how I'm doing.
I was going to disqualify it on the premise that it's Andy, and Andy
D-
put Divine Warrior in his bottom 10.
All right.
Despite how bad squids are, I think Westlin has the least opinion on underrated cards.
Because
Just
I think
throwing it
every
out
card's
there.
underrated. Actually, every
Yes, because
card.
you think every card, despite like how many players play it, you think it's underrated.
Dude, Scrat Take's really underrated, guys. No one plays that card.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
yeah,
I
this.
know when I threatened to drive to Andy's house to yell at him in person, it was an idle threat. But Westlin, I know where you live, and I could get there before this podcast ends. Do not tempt me.
All right, so this list is the top 10 underrated cards. I would say this is probably the hardest one. Well, this will be one of the harder ones to put together in general because it's really hard to qualify or quantify what is and isn't underrated. Um, so I guess what was your guys' approach to like this list? Like, what were you thinking when you were picking cards?
Uh, Squid go first.
Wow. So, my thought on them, my underrated
Hold
list,
on, I'll
I'd
be
say,
back. I need
was
to
a
get my
lot of
pink shirt.
cards that, looking at them, I think are underrated mostly because there exist some cards that might be a bit better than them that make them not really played. I think they're still fine cards. I just think there are others that in the current meta kind of beat them out. Um, my main criteria was just thinking like, what cards would I? It was kind of what cards like would I be fine if I saw them in a draft per se, but I don't think get played a lot in ladder because the meta is a bit tilted towards other cards at the moment.
I'd say okay. So my approach to this list is I was like first listing off cards that I thought were. So it's like going through the list. I'm like, what cards do I think are good, but people don't play enough? Like these are kind of like my almost like saying you should actually be playing these cards, but you probably aren't playing them in enough of your decks.
Yeah, that's
Um,
probably accurate about mine
that's
too.
probably what I was thinking mostly. I definitely come most. My list is definitely solos focused. Some of these cards, at least one of these, is specifically in here for solo play and tournament solo play, and it's actually. And I'll explain which queue I'm talking about for most of these. But a lot of it is like tournament and solo play, I've considered these for non-wild carded decks when I was doing this. This was all non-wild carded deck consideration. So
Fair.
when I picked these cards, um, so we are gonna. And Andy, what you have anything to add? Are you ready to start with your list?
No, yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, I picked the shit that they they don't know how it be, but it do. Like
Mm-hmm.
they think the card's not good, but the card's actually good, so it's on my list.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
The
going to clarify that a lot of my cards I don't necessarily think are like good or top tier. I just think that their reputation in the community is like these are shit tier cards, and I'm going to argue they're like mediocre tier cards. They are Andy tier cards, not OWO tier cards.
Okay.
Interesting.
So hold on. I just forgot I left out a card, and I'm gonna adjust my list real quick. Um, but my number 10 is still in place. So
The level of unprofessionalism far too much.
I know this is what you should come to expect from this stream. If you're looking for a professional stream, it does not exist in the Minion Masters community. I'm sorry to tell you. Anyways,
Podcast topic number one: what is a professional stream? Go.
Mine.
I don't know. I
Oh,
think it's
fuck
like one
no.
that's actually like looks like they put real effort into making a quality stream. Anyways, okay, number 10. Let's start with Andy and go down the line. Andy, what is your number 10 underrated card?
Warrior.
Warrior. Okay.
Get out.
That actually caught me
Oh
off guard.
my
Okay,
god.
what is the thoughts on why is this an underrated
There's
card?
this whole player base, and like 90% of them, even before the recent nerfs, and even after the recent nerfs,
You
players
mean the
think that
recent
Lone
buffs?
Wolf.
Oh, sorry, the
Um,
lone wolf stuff. Sorry.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Even before and after the recent nerfs, most of the player base thinks Lone Wolf and Divine Warrior are superior cards to Warrior. They're not, and they never were, and they never will be.
I disagree
Warrior
with the
is the
never
best
were.
of the three.
I disagree with the never were, but the recent changes definitely make me run
Okay, yeah,
Warrior
yeah.
over the others.
Yeah, that's true. Divine Warrior was better at one point,
I
but it's not.
I would just like to take a moment, and Andy's like, "Oh, I'm going to, if you'll start listing off 10 cards that are not actually underrated, and starts with Warrior, that most of us would agree is a top 10 card, and it's like, nah, it's underrated."
No way. Whatever.
Like, I already have my top 10 list prepared in case we get to that stream, and spoiler alert, Warrior is number 4 on it, Andy.
Well, your lists
Where
are
do you
wrong
think I should
anyway,
be
so your
ranking
shit
it?
doesn't matter.
All right.
Oh my
Before
goodness.
his head explodes, I'm gonna jump in and say my number 10 is actually Mana Puff. I think Mana Puff is. I know it's not great in every deck, but I think I'm seeing it. Like I'm thinking it needs to be showing up in a little bit more in the Rappo list that people are making and the Milloween decks that people are making, where it's a really strong card and everybody's just running like the bridge cap units. But I'm seeing it played a lot less than I think it should be played personally.
I would agree. I think Mana Puffs, it's a decent cycle card, and you can actually get value out of it if they don't answer it, unlike a lot of other 1 mana cards where even if they don't do anything about it, it's just kind of not
Mm-hmm.
a lot of...
And
good
I
choice.
and I picked it for one solos. Again, I don't think it's actually that good in twos because it's just there's someone's going to answer it right away, and it's really hard to protect something like that.
Yep.
So,
For my number 10,
All right,
speaking on Mana Puff, though,
sure.
it's easily the worst of the 1 mana drops in the game. So
I think it depends on the deck, though. I think in certain lists you can actually protect it, and it can be better than other options. But it depends on the deck. I think that's
Maybe
why I think it's
sometimes.
underrated, is because everyone always picks it as the weakest one in their mind.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually not always the case. I think in that
there are
Milloween and
cases where
Rappo list, it's
Netherbat are
better.
Yeah, I think Netherbat can be much weaker than Mana Puff depending on what kind of deck you're running. And I even think, even if it's the weakest of the 1-drops, I still think there are decks that can make use of 4 1-drops. I think there are some Psycho Millo decks, for example, where you can play all 4 1-drops in your deck, and it makes your deck a lot stronger because once you get that a few perks, you know, by perk 2, you've got such a low enough cycle, you can keep that golem alive
All
forever.
right. Schilling's number 10 now.
Number 10 is Dulcis is trash. Sorry.
Wrong stream for that. This is not our favorite.
Back-
This
Yeah,
is not our
the
favorite
KGC, man. You can't say that here.
There are like 4 people in the chat who are going to get that reference, and
Yeah, we're
You're
more
all-
professional than that, Squid. We don't post things like that. All right,
but
what's your
yes,
card?
my number 10 is Magma Cannon.
Oh, okay. Yes, that makes sense.
It actually is Magma Cannon.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not underrated
I
anymore, though.
don't know.
You come in
Everybody-
here with Warrior.
Everybody
and
knows
say
that Magma
Cannon's
Cannon's not
underrated.
bad.
Here's the thing: is all the top tier, like the top players, know Magma Cannon isn't bad. But when we're talking about like a lot of the rest of the community, I think that's where that comes into mind. So if you're
Okay.
taking only the pro players and the like, you know, they're gonna know, like they know which cards are good, and it's gonna be harder to evaluate this list against them.
Yeah,
But-
I would just like to, for a moment, point out if we're talking about underrated, you know how far you have to go down on the top ranked battle players to find someone with a warrior in their deck?
Well, technically,
That doesn't
Magma
matter.
Cannon's on the top deck because Florian's
7.
running it.
It's 7.
Yeah, if Magma Cannon's in the number 1 spot and Warrior's in the number 7 spot, what's your point?
It's also in the number 9. It's also, like, hop over to Team Battle where it's in the 4th highest deck. Like,
If you're hopping over,
go look at the top 20. You see a lot more warriors in those lists than you see magma cannons. And that's even in the top
It
2
might be-
people understand.
it might be less played than Warrior, but Warrior is a better card than Magma Cannon by far, so it's more underrated than Magma Cannon.
I do agree
What?
Warrior's a better card. I
What?
don't know. I mean, I'm going to say that you guys can yell as much as you want, but judging on how underrated a card is not exactly something you can do unless we get our full list of all of the, which I want to poll the
I
community
just-
ranking all the cards at some point, and then we can have a way easier time doing these lists. So maybe in the
I mean-
future, we will be able to come back and yell at each other. I'm not talking shit about Magma Cannon for Florian.
Oh my god.
We're talking.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I think Magma Cannon is a decent card. It doesn't get played a lot. Part of that is just the meta. People have tilted a bit more into aggressive decks where it doesn't make sense to be running a Magma Cannon because you never want to be on the defensive. But I still think it's a strong card. It deserves to be played more.
Yeah, I think outside, because we've only been seeing it in these Volco lists, and I think it needs to be seen in a few more lists than that. Maybe
Right.
maybe some of these Stormbringers need to be trying to bring out the Magma Cannon again.
I think not only Stormbringer, I think Magma Cannon is very strong on, say, Morelia, because the auto attack slow gives you so long that your Magma Cannon isn't getting hit that it helps the DPS.
All right. So on to number 9. So this one, I picked this card for a very specific reason. Okay, so this card is seen in a deck, and when people see it in this specific deck, they obviously think it's OP. But I'm talking about when it's not wild carded. This card is completely underplayed, and it's Blood Imps. Now, understand why I'm saying this card. Now, this card, I actually think Blood Imps are worth running outside of just a Blood Imp spam deck. And and outside of just using it for like a Deary and getting to low health deck, I actually think the card is pretty good as a 0-cost card to do bridge cap and to actually get and speed up that cycle on some of these more aggressive facey decks. I think Ravagers can be running Blood Imps, and quite a few. Just some of these more aggressive decks, and even Volco lists could be running Blood Imps as kind of one of their instead of and replace one of their 1-cost cycles or to supplement a faster cycle in a wild card list deck. So that is why I say Blood Imps is underrated for the case that it's outside of wild cards. It's not being played much.
Good points. I agree. That
Counter argument: Blood Imps suck.
No.
All right.
Blood Imps
Blood
suck
Imps is
in
good
twos.
and it's underplayed. It fits the bill. It's a good one.
All right, on to Squids, number 9.
All right. So I debated between several cards. I ultimately settled on this one, not for what I think the main usage case of it is, but because I think it's a surprisingly strong counter to some cards that can be problematic, namely Morelia's fucking perk 3.
I feel like it's Ghost.
Apples. I will ban you. Anyway, it is not Ghost at number 9.
think
At
so.
number 9, it is Howling Moon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I really like Howling Moon, not so much for the wolf spawn, which is still good, but because I think reducing cards to half health is very strong against certain decks, especially Morelia's perk 3, because Morelia's perk 3 takes the full damage from Howling Moon, which means it actually will deal more than, say, Lightning Bolt. I'm going to say the reason Howling Moon is on my list is because I think a lot of people rate Howling Moon mostly for the wolf spawn. I don't think people put enough weight on it for its use just as
Like
a
a
quasi
counter.
removal.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with no.
I think I'm gonna
I think
disagree with
Howling
Squid on
Moon's
this
in
one.
like fucking every game.
Yeah,
I see Warrior more often than Howling Moon, Andy.
Definitely not. Howling Moon is definitely played more than Warrior.
100% I see Warrior more often than Howling Moon. Are you on crack? Is
I'm
that
just
what you're
saying,
smoking?
Howling Moon and
Are you
Warrior
smoking
both
crack?
made it into my KPC lists, so both of you guys are wrong.
Just because you play, listen, you play all the weird shit. It doesn't matter what you play.
Crossbow Guild belongs in Volco. You guys just haven't learned.
Yeah, I ran Crossbow Guild.
Okay, see, you at least have come around. All right, Andy, what is your number 9 here?
Drone Walker.
Okay,
People think aimbot is the future,
it is the future.
and it may slightly be the future, but consider this: you can run both Drone Walker and aimbot in the same deck, and it's good.
Yeah, but I'd rather just have 2 aimbots.
That's wildcards, though.
Shut up.
Fuck.
No.
So yeah, aimbot is the future, but Drone Walker's still good. Drone Walker did not get weaker when aimbot got stronger, so it's still good. And some people thought it was weak before, whatever. I don't know why they ever thought that, because Drone Walker's always.
I actually had aimbot alone on my short list, because I still think that one's underplayed already. I think both of them are underplayed.
It's like aimbot's. Fuck, I don't know. Yeah. They're probably both underplayed, but I'd say Drone Walker is the one that's more underrated.
Yeah, it might be. It's because they're probably not as far in difference, but I think it's because they're so close in mana cost. And I have a whole rant about cards that are almost identical being similar mana costs, and not a fan of that. All right, that's number 9. On to number 8 from SquidSchilling.
All right. This card made Andy's bottom 10 because Andy has never played Minion Masters before. It is Brothers of Light.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was going to make your list. I think I figured a little bit. We'll just call it Brothers. Okay. I thought Brothers was going to make your list.
I like Brothers. I think Brothers is... I don't think it's a top tier card, but I think Brothers is very underrated for... just... They have pretty good DPS, they are survivable, they answer a lot of cards pretty efficiently, and I think very underrated is that Brothers of Light you can play in a way where they split, and your opponent has to answer both.
I'm going to argue for about the skill thing.
Otherwise...
Don't split them. Don't split them. Keep them together. They're brothers. They belong together. If you're splitting up your brothers, you're ruining the card.
I think Brothers of Light is very underrated in general, especially by Andy, who put it in his bottom 10.
You see now, so I think Brothers of Light, I think it's an underrated card. At least out of the 3 that you've submitted so far, it's definitely the most underrated of the 3. But that's because it's so shit that people think it's even shittier than than it actually is. It's really bad, but people think it's even worse. It's at least kind of there.
Andy, I'll kick your ass with Brothers. I'm going to teach you how Brothers work. I'll play it in a deck where see. Here's the thing about Brothers. So when you're taking these, and this is why Brothers is good, and I'm going to tell about the deck that it's used in. So
it might just. It also could factor into just the types of decks I play. I think this can be true for everyone. But the types of all 4 decks that I play, all decks that I play, always
are bad.
Slam anyone who plays Brothers of Light. Anyone who plays Brothers of Light against me is guaranteed loss. So that's why it's on my bottom 10 card.
Okay, so the ace.
No matter what.
So the deck with Brothers of Light that's really effective utilizes Healing Fireball or uses the Clear Skies. So the reason it's effective with these guys is you're committing to 2 heavy units that you can basically get double your healing out of, because any AoE is going to get healed up more efficiently. A lot of times people are going to split their attacks on them, and so they can be healed more effectively than a lot of other big units, and that's where their value comes in. And once they get to face, it's 2 sets of that whatever that aura is. I don't think they're that bad. I think they're actually pretty usable, but there's not many. The lists need to be built around them, and I think that's I
would agree. I just think Brothers of Light is. I think Brothers of Light is very strong. I would say Brothers of Light is.
It's underrated, but it's not strong.
I don't know where I'd rate that card. I think it's underrated though. I think a lot of people are. I think less people are playing it than could. I think it's higher elo players have utilized it pretty well. I played it with Gamer, where Gamer will play it in twos and to pretty good effectiveness on Ravager. All right, Andy's number 8.
Haunted Hunger.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Damn it, Andy. Fine.
Dude, anyone who thinks this card's bad is crazy. This card is so good. The value is insane. You just play this card and it's just infinite value every time. This card never fucking dies if you play it right. Like, if you play this card right, it will stay on the field for like a minute at a time.
It's like, what, 3% of their maximum health and damage other than when it jumps on stuff?
But nobody cares about the damage. It's the crazy bridge control power.
It doesn't bridge control that well because it usually goes down the middle. Like it.
You get that the only way it controls the bridge is if your opponent has something on the bridge, in which case you can't take the bridge.
It doesn't take it. Like if they place it.
He takes the bridge while they walk past the bridge. That's how you get value out of it.
Yeah, the first time it gets it.
It fulfills the same purpose as Propeller Scratch, but does it better.
No, Propeller Scratch is so much better at it.
Except he does less damage than Propeller Scratch in a lot of situations. So if you're trying to kill some shit, yeah, play Propeller Scratch. But if you want bridge control, Haunted Hugger.
I'm not. We've argued with this for you too much that we're not going to do it on stream.
Can I invite Apples and replace Andy?
All right, this is a card I
right
think
now?
I'm going to get 0 flack on. And Squid, you are wrong if you give me flack on this one, so shut up. Dragon Pack. I think Dragon Pack in Diona is a really good tool. It can be pretty hard to deal with. And a lot of people aren't playing it. It's difficult to use because it needs to be protected. But if you bring something like Bannerman, you utilize it with the Diona deck.
It was on my short list.
It's pretty good.
It was on my short list.
Okay. And I expect Andy will not complain about this one, so I think I'm in the clear. I've seen Andy bring this card to a tournament.
Yeah.
And
That's a good card.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe it's not underrated, though. We just had 3 people say it's a good card. Maybe it's not actually underrated.
Well, you have to remember, everybody here and everyone who's going to spend the time to watch my stream is going to be good at the game, and they're going to know which cards are good. Except for Deadshot, apparently. So.
Well, I will say, I think Dragon Pack is underrated. I understand why people don't run it, though, because Fireball is pretty popular, and it is a card that, if you don't have the support for it, just dies to a Fireball and you go down 3 mana.
Yeah, if that is
apples.
No, Fireball does make this card a lot weaker, but and I think in the current tournament system,
that is also true. Chopper is very popular. Also, Scrat Tank is pretty popular.
But this card's good against Scrat Tank. You just need to stop Scrat Tank.
It's really good against Scrat Tank.
Yeah, you just have to stop Scrat Tank for a very short period of time.
The value against Scrat Tank's fucking insane. Same reason as Haunted Hugger. The bridge control is crazy. And like the survivability of Dragon Pack goes up so much if you're going against the Scrat Tank, because that shit just carries back to your side of the field while you're generating mana. So suddenly you have 10 mana again after playing Dragon Pack while the Dragon Pack's still alive. Like, that shit's fucking broken.
All right.
Also, I'm just gonna point out, Andy on his whole it's underrated doesn't even know the name of the card.
Which card?
It's Haunting Hugger.
Oh,
I call it Haunted Hugger, though, for fun. I know the name of the card, but I just call it that because it sounds better.
I didn't type it wrong on the stream. Anyways,
Yes,
Andy's number, we're on number 7 now. All right. These are going to be more underrated as we go. At least that's our approach.
Oh, wait, I actually gave you the wrong card because I didn't look at my list.
Oh, no.
Haunted Hugger was my number 7. My number 8... so just fucking switch the order of them.
No, I can do it. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, the one that's next is Rampage.
Okay. No. God damn it.
What do you mean?
Rampage is so bad.
Nope. He's banned. I banned him.
All right, Deadshot agrees with Rampage.
Deadshot Freeze, hell yeah, Deadshot. No, this is a good card, and everyone thinks it's ass booty, but like the value is crazy.
I think it's ass booty.
Two mana to
It's
turn
ass
your
booty.
Brothers of Light into an actually useful card is like really good.
You're gonna kill Schilling.
You're not getting unbanned. I will ban more of you if I have to.
Okay, so now that
Regular
actually no, this is confirmed. Brothers are good and Rampage is good. You just mix them together. So we just combine the powers of Schilling and Andy together, and all of a sudden we get something beautiful. All right. I'm going to go on to number 7. And this one I might get some flack for, but it's not everybody thinks it's underrated. But I think people aren't playing it enough, and it's Whirly Scrat. I see a lot of people just taking other tanks over this card. And this card could actually be fucking frustrating for certain decks. Like if you don't have like some decks that are playing a bunch of small shit, they just get rolled over by this card. It just keeps spinning. You can't get anything onto it. It could be just kind of a fucking bitch to deal with.
I thought about putting this on my list, but I feel like it's well known enough to not put it on my list.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a good card, but I think it's well known. I think a lot of people know it's a good card.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I didn't put it
I think
on.
in certain lists it's really frustrating to deal with, and it actually becomes one of the best cards in the game against the right deck. But the problem with Whirly Scrat is its strength comes from what it's against versus what you put around it.
That's not true. Because when you play Cleaver with Whirly Scrat, you're in a whole new world.
Cleaver Whirly Scrat's pretty good. I will, yeah, especially on set 2.
Yeah.
Because then you get that extra jump in there. Yeah, as Unseen pointed out, Whirly's a pretty good, useful Mordar tool. All right, on to the number 7 from SquidSchilling.
This might be a bit of a hot take, but I think this I'd put in a similar category to Whirly, where it has a very defined use, but I don't see a lot of people using it. I think Battle Shihao is my number 7.
No, I think, yeah.
Battle Shihao, and the main reason for it is Battle Shihao is very hard to answer effectively, especially if they don't answer it before face. If you let a Battle Shihao get to face, you're going to take so much damage just killing it.
I don't think you take a whole lot of damage, but I won't say it's bad.
Well, its DPS is way better when it's way stronger once it's on face than when it's fighting units, because it says what is it, 75 a hit? You get it up to like
right.
But like at that point, just play a rammer.
I don't know. Like Battle Shihao's harder.
Andy, do you even play Minion Masters?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Battle Shihao can be really frustrating.
Is it
when
even
face.
installed on your computer right now?
I think Rammer's a little bit easier to answer cleanly because Rammer has a little bit less health. And if you play if any deck has Swarm, then Battle Monkey is going to be crazy. But I don't know. I don't mind it. All right.
Oh my goodness.
We're on to number 6.
I'm not even to the 2 that I think Andy will yell at me the most for yet.
Okay, this card is a little bit related to the last 2 cards and Rammer as well. And it's a card that I think is hella underplayed because people always seem to just want to kill things, but they don't kill face enough, and it's Stun Blast. I really like this card as a great way as a Ravager tool. Especially if you time it with your unit hitting Frenzy, then all of a sudden you're getting 5 seconds of frenzied units on face. Like you can get I think 5 hits off with Rammer if you Stun Blast right. Like it's so hard for people to answer. If like that Rammer Stun Blast combo.
About this pick, I'm gonna be honest, but I think Stun Blast has its uses. I don't think the uses are that prevalent to really make it a good card, but
it's like very one-dimensional when you would use it. You use it to deal a fuck ton of face damage, and that's it. Like
I think it's a good rushdown tool.
You wouldn't ever like Shock Rock. You wouldn't use it like Shock Rock to turn a trade because that's 3 mana instead of 2, so it's just not as good. So it's very much just the aggression option, and It's too one dimensional for my liking.
If it like, I would honestly play. I actually do play this card quite a bit. This is kind of one of my go-to things. I'll like combine it with Fireball and Dex, or, but I like it better than Chain Lightning. There's a lot of times like the stuff I want to, like I just like freezing their entire army, and especially with Battle Shihao. This was really popular. Where if I could get this to face, they drop stuff to deal with Battle Shihao. They just upped my damage.
I wondered if I could, when I was thinking about my list, if I could call this an underrated card, just because the phase it went through with Battle Shiho, like it became so popular for that short amount of time. I feel like it lingers enough to call this not an underrated card.
Yeah.
All right, on to Shillings number 6.
I went back and forth a lot on this one. I'm just gonna be honest. For a while, I thought about putting Nirvir the Fallen in here, but then people realized, wait, while Nirvir the Fallen is actually a bad card, the 3-mana removal is a really great tool, and then it got ran a lot at KPC.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, because it was gonna be my pick for 6, but then too many people ran it. So I reconsidered and decided it really can't be called underrated at the moment because people have realized that it's
So that's not your card, but you talked about it already.
Yes.
Okay, well, what's your actual card then?
And ultimately, I went with a card that I think people do regard as fairly strong, but just isn't played quite as much as I think their strength would warrant, and that is Succubus.
Whoa! Dude, this card's in like every other game, man.
My reason for Succubus, look, chat. Let me.
Are you at least considering Succubus as being separate from Charizard Twins? I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll say this: I think the reason Succubus is on my list is, I think people have realized it's a good card, but it still doesn't see a lot of play at the higher ranks. Like, if you look at your top 20 list, not many people are running Succubus, even though I think more people should. I think my reason for Succubus is, basically bad. I'm saying that, like, I think Succubus is worth having a spot in almost every deck.
Huh. So you think it's even though it's played, people are still not playing it enough?
Yeah, I would say, like, Succubus, I think, has a reputation of being, like, top tier, and I'm like, no, Succubus is, like, god tier.
Then that means you, like, disagree with Drone Walker and Aimbot being top tier cards that belong in every deck.
Well, yeah, they don't belong in every deck.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think Drone Walker and Aimbot belong in every deck. I think Succubus has a place in pretty much every deck.
Huh.
I used to think that, but then I realized how fucking easy it is to counter Succubus, and so I stopped putting Succubus in all my decks.
It's annoying in Morelia, but outside of that,
it's even easier to counter Drone Walker, Andy.
But Drone Walker's only 4 mana, and like he'll get value. He usually gets his value faster.
All right. Anyways, what is the number 6 from Andy here?
Number 6 from Andy. Wait, is my numbering backwards? Oh, it is.
What the fuck? Have we done?
I was wondering why I keep getting confused. Wait, on my spreadsheet, I numbered them 1 through 10 instead of 10 through 1.
Wait, was Warrior supposed to be your most underrated card?
No.
Okay, thank God.
I have them in the correct order. I'm just looking at it like it's just confusing to look at.
You made Squid leave the room.
They're in the order, but like I put numbers beside
Schilling,
them.
come back.
I put numbers in my spreadsheet beside them, and I put the numbers wrong. I was like, wait, was this my number 5 or my number 6?
All right. Well, you say your card quickly so you'll be harassment free. Go.
Okay, my number 6 is Legionnaires.
Okay.
I think especially right after the Fireball buff a few months ago, this card fell off the face of the earth completely. And it's only, if ever, and almost never, but if ever, it's only seen in KP. But I think it still has value just because you can even if you occasionally lose the 1 mana on against a Fireball trait, you usually will get enough value out of it the rest of the match that it doesn't matter, or you'll have baited out a Fireball when you've got more important shit to have Fireball. Like my decks that I put Legionnaires in, I put them in decks where they've got other more important shit to Fireball. So if they Fireball my Legionnaires, they fucking wasted it.
I don't play it purely because Wolf Among Sheep. I like Wolf Among Sheep better, and
I was gonna say I think Wolf Among Sheep is the more obvious card to counter, and so because of that, people are more prepared to counter Wolf Among Sheep than they are prepared to counter Legionnaires, and the 1 mana discount is going to work out in your favor overall, over the length of the game.
All right, we're on to the top half now. These last 5 cards from each of us. These are the cards. These are the cream of the crop of you idiots should be playing these in your decks. If you're not, why aren't you? These are underrated.
Unban me so I can talk in chat.
All right, unban them.
Make her fine.
All right, Squid, it is your time to do the number 5 card.
I know Andy's going to get angry because he thinks it's a bad card, but Andy put Haunting Hugger in his list, and he's terrible, and that's a terrible card. So my number 5 is Ghost, and Andy, you are objectively wrong about Ghost. Not only are you objectively wrong, Mr. Andy, the whole, it was only at 10% health. They only got that dragon for 3 seconds.
Oh, boy.
I clipped it. It was 18 seconds.
All right.
18!
I didn't ever say Ghost was a bad card.
Andy, do I have to go back and clip where you said that you thought Ghost was bad and that it's not worth playing over Haunting Hugger?
No, I said... No, you kept telling me to change...
Post it in this chat.
You kept telling me to change Haunted Hugger in my deck to Ghost, and I said Ghost doesn't belong in my deck. Haunted Hugger does, because I use.
And then you lost to a Ghost. Then you lost to a Ghost.
One fucking game, and it wasn't the Ghost that decided the game.
All right, history aside, why does Ghost belong as an underrated card?
Oh my goodness.
Ignoring the Andy rant, why is this underrated?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so. Ghost is... I think people underrate Ghost because Ghost is very hard to do correctly. You have to be very careful with your Ghost to actually make sure it gets onto the right minion and steals the right minion, along with making sure that it doesn't die to any removal spells they might have, because it is a fairly low health card. I think people underrate Ghost mostly because I'll just be honest, your average Minion Masters player is not capable of using Ghost correctly, which is why Andy thinks Haunting Hugger should be better.
I don't think it's better. I think they're pretty much equal. All I've said is I'm not going to play Ghost because Ghost doesn't fit in my fucking deck.
It did. You just don't understand deck building.
All right, on to Andy's cards. Squid, shut up. Andy, what is your number 5 underrated card?
Number 5, Arcane Bolt.
Okay, yeah, I'm actually going to be with you on this one. What's the argument for where should we be bringing this deck? Why do we need this card?
I don't know. I mean, I only really consider this for tournament play, but it's so important in tournament play that it overrules the fact that I otherwise mostly consider this shit for ladder.
Okay.
This is the only card where, because of how important it is in tournament play, that all the rest of my cards are decided based on ladder, but this one you have to sideboard this card in tournament play if you want to be ready for the shit you're going to go up against.
Yeah.
So it just breaks through the fold in that aspect. But it speaks for itself. You tech it in the right moment, and it's crucial. It's huge. It's huge if you put it in at the right moment.
It makes certain decks work. It's a defensive tool that, if you're going to bring a Crossbow Guild deck, you kind of need to run this in case someone's running Blastmancer or Spiritmancer. You're going to get shit on without this card.
Yep.
It's a pretty important tool for those decks. It's niche, but it's important to bring in because there are certain cards you need to be able to kill, and if you can't kill them, you're going to be tilted. It's for specific decks, but it makes specific decks survive the stuff that screws them up.
I would agree.
Okay, mine. This card's actually showing up a lot, but I think it's actually underrated, not by the average player, but by the upper community. This one is a little bit different take, because most of the skilled players don't want to be playing RNG cards, especially RNG cards where when you play it, you don't know what's happening, and it's Walking Blind Date. I think that getting that, like, with its taunt, it's a great tool that people haven't been utilizing. It's actually pretty safe with its taunt to be able to draw aggro off of a unit and then have it jump back to that unit. It's really good right now. I was climbing while in upper GM with triple Walking Blind Date decks and just playing around that card. I almost went higher on my list, but I have some other ones that I like a little bit more. But my top 5 are all like right by each other in how underrated I think they are.
The utility is really good.
I would only keep it off because I think people have started warming on Walking Blind Date.
Not enough of them.
Yeah.
I still think there is an argument that is underrated. I think it is a very strong card.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot more in the community pick up, especially I'm seeing like Setsu and like Rappos, where they're just trying to put a lot of spam out and just have stuff next to this card, so when it spawns, it's not aggroed.
Oh, sorry, but I was going to say, with the recent Screaming Scrat nerf, this card just becomes more important.
Yeah.
Because Screaming Scrat is weaker now, and this does the same thing. So without this getting nerfed equally, because it couldn't be, it's just stronger in relatively.
All right, number 4 from Andy. What is it?
Walking Blind Date.
Oh, nice. Well, that explains why I got no complaints from that. All right.
It just makes sense. It's in a good spot right now.
I think it's actually. I really wanted to bring it in all my decks in the tournament, but I decided to not chance it, and I almost regret not doing it because I really like the card. And it's a lot of fun to play. It's actually. I did not misspell that, guys. Pay no attention.
Do I have to clip where you misspelled it? Because I will.
Yeah,
and how I also typed it Walk Blind Date on my other one. Okay, no one saw.
Okay,
this.
but at least that one, like,
I know I've
you
shortened
could
some
almost
card
have argued it was formatting.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I agree with that card quite a bit because it's on my list.
Yeah, it would have made my list. I just think that people have started warming up on it. I kept it off for the same reason I ended up not putting on Nivir.
Okay, so my number 4 is crossover with Schilling, and I think Schilling knew this card was going on my list. He probably expected it higher. But this card, I've always liked to tech it in because I really hate Scrat Tanks. And this card is really good against Scrat Tank. It's also good against any other big guy because it's really nice to just say, hey, you played that card, well, it's mine now, and it's Ghost.
Yeah.
Just playing this card on your side of the field, it's hard to react to, especially if you like, because if they're not aggroed onto it, it's really hard to get the cards out in time to respond to this card. And then on top of that, if you bring a Bannerman, they can't kill it with spells. I mean, I ghosted somebody's Morelia Dragon through Shockrock, and then they tried to stun or Chain Lightning it. And then they obviously played him in the wrong order, but then I Bannermanned it and just felt great to be able to steal away a ghost or a dragon. It's kind of annoying when you get it in your like future present or not future present. Well, that is an annoying spot. Or like your perk 3 for APAP because you want to cycle cards. But it's a good card as like a utility and kind of taking the spot of a spell that you would normally put in your deck. So I like the card. All right, Schilling number 4.
Steve, but before we move,
number 4.
Okay. The spot I still have trouble with Ghost is it's still so equal in value to Haunted Hugger.
Not really. I don't agree that it's an equal in value.
No, you are.
Well, not equal value. That's not the right term because it's still a
this.
4-mana card versus 2-mana.
You're making that argument.
Like, relative to their mana cost, they're equal in value.
I don't know. I think when Ghost is good, it's the best at what it does, and nothing else compares with it. I mean,
Well, yeah, they do different tasks, but I'm just saying, like, they're both at the same level of being good
I
at
don't
what
know.
they
I
do.
think people compare them because they both do the curse, but realistically, their role is different.
Yeah,
I
I know
don't.
they're. Yeah, I'm saying their role's different. I agree. I'm just saying they're still so exactly good at what they do. The two different things that they do, exactly good. But Haunted Hugler is clearly the less played one and the less revered one of the two, and that's why it's the more underrated card of the two.
All right. Anyway.
It's also the more shit card.
All right, Schilling. On to
Um,
yours. Number
This
4.
card also appeared in Andy's bottom 10 because Andy doesn't play Minion Masters. I don't know why we even invited him to a Minion Masters podcast when he's never played the game.
To make you angry, obviously.
It's working. I don't know if you've been watching anything I've been doing, but I left the podcast for a solid minute and a half out of tilt at Andy.
This is a toxicity-free zone. It says it in my stream title.
It does not.
Okay, fair enough. Anyways,
Anyway, my
What
number
is your-
4 is Ghost Turret.
I thought that was going to show up on your list.
I think Ghost Turret is very strong in what it does. I think people don't... Look, I know some of you are going to argue with me. I wouldn't even, have it in my consideration if it wasn't for the fact that someone else on this podcast with me went off and is like, Ghost Turret's a bottom 10 card.
I think a lot of people have said Ghost Turret isn't very good, and I do think it's very underrated. It was on my short list.
It's underrated for the same reason Brothers of Light is underrated.
No, they're not bad cards.
Oh my goodness.
It's underrated.
Give me a moment.
And pretty much deservedly so.
Unmute
All right.
him.
Stop fucking timing me out.
Andy, if you don't want timed out, stop saying stupid.
I would actually. It's a weird mix between underrated and overrated. People either underrate the shit out of it or they overrate the shit out of it. There's no in between. They do one of the two. So
Okay, so at least you know that you're underrating the shit out of it. And I'm glad that you're.
I disagree strongly, Apples, with
You
that.
two are definitely overrating it too much.
Turret is surprisingly strong on Morelia because of her slow as well.
I don't know. I try and play this card at the bridge when I play it.
I mean, that is also true, but it is very good at getting rid of swarms on Morelia's face that she normally would have difficulty with. And it's very good at killing bigger units that are about to hit her face.
All right.
Yeah, I think it is a decent card. I don't know that I'd say it's incredibly strong, but it's definitely not bottom 10, Andy.
All right. This card requires you to build your deck around it, and most people can't do it right, and it is a hard card to play. I think it's this probably one main reason it doesn't see as much play as it is. I'd say there's a lot of people who do think this card is amazing. I think this card is one of the best cards in the game when used correctly, and it's its own archetype of a deck when it's utilized. But it's a face card and it's Scrat Launcher. This card is actually one of the
underrated.
I think it is. I think there's so many people who aren't running it. How many times have you run into a Scrat Launcher deck that was good?
In 2v2s? Dude, I played 2v2s.
My list is for solos. Mine is a solos list.
Since when are we doing this for solos?
I did. I said that from the... You don't have to do yours for solos.
Your list can be for solos, but I'm just going to throw it out there. In my stream last night, I had 10 back-to-back games going against fucking Scrat Launcher.
I know people run it in twos, but how many people in solos are trying to utilize this card? I think it's actually really strong. My list is based on solos, and this card is definitely I know it's a common twos card, but I think it's actually still really solid in solos. It's a great tool. It's better than just Stormbringer. You can run this card in... obviously people tried it in Diona, and I think now that they fixed that bug, we're going to eventually see this card show up a little bit more. But the other thing people haven't been doing it is in King Puff, where you can put it to one side of the bridge and just swap away stuff from it so they can't interact with it. Yeah, Stormbringer makes it safer, but I think this card's actually really good. I think hopefully people know it's good, but I think a lot of people don't realize how strong it is, and it's just a hard card to play. I think it's really good, but Scrat Launcher is my number 3. All right, Squid.
my number 3. I think this card is very strong. I don't think people really consider it that weak. I just think it got overshadowed for a while by a card that was competing pretty directly with it. So my number 3 is Spear Throwers.
Okay.
My main reason is I think people got away from Spear Throwers when Rage decks were popular and Tantrum Throwers was played so much because you used it for empowered Soul Stealer and whatnot. But I think Spear Throwers is a very strong card. It answers a lot of units that otherwise are pretty difficult to answer effectively. It deals with Zhao. It's a pretty good way to answer, say, Harb. It answers the various Soul Stealers.
Well, it doesn't answer it on its own, but it helps.
Yeah, and I think people underrate Spear Throwers because Tantrum Throwers was competing for that spot directly, and people put Tantrum Throwers up so high because of everything else you could do with them. Yeah, I'd agree with Deadshot. This is kind of a Spear Throwers got pushed down a lot when Tantrum Throwers became popular, and I think they got pushed down too far for most people, where for a while it was Tantrum Throwers were replacing Spear Throwers even on decks that don't need the Rage trigger.
Yeah. My extra comment on this is it's kind of weird that this card phased out when it was really popular for a while. Like, this card was showing up in tournaments all the time. And even, there was a time where people weren't doing Tantrum Throwers at it. But, yeah, I'm actually going to agree with this one quite a bit. I think that's a really good pick for that spot. It's a good card, and people have been playing it less than I would expect. All right, Andy, what is your number 3? Unless you have some comments on that card.
Oh no, I have no comment. It's an alright pick.
All right.
I guess there's reasoning behind it. I don't know. The card's not underplayed, but it's fine. Call it underrated. My number 3 though, it probably doesn't actually have to be number 3. It could probably have been number 10. but
Yeah.
But it's whatever at this point. It's already in this spot. Is Gorak Sacrifice?
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
In 2v2 pre-mades with teams with teammates that know exactly what the fuck they're doing with each other, this card can be so good. Especially, just think of all the crazy decks you can run. You can combo it with Gorak Gate to sacrifice a Gorak gated cleaver to turn it into a real cleaver. Or as a team, or
this is just a thought. You realize that playing Gorak Sacrifice on a Gorak on a Spawn of Fury cleaver is more mana to get less cleavers than just playing 2 cleavers.
I'm not talking about Spawn of Fury, no.
No, he's talking about Gorak Sacrifice. Oh yeah, I gotta type this card in. I do hate this card. I think it's shit, but the value in pre-made is crazy. Because you can do so much to support your cleaver more than you can in 1v1s, and that's the reason. That's the whole reason it's here. It's so much less viable in 1v1s than it is in pre-made 2s. But in pre-made 2s, the opportunities are endless. You're basically getting free cleavers out there that you can support with whatever the fuck you want.
You're gonna lose to a pre-made 2 that's running real decks. And I would just like to say, for everyone in the chat that's like, oh, Andy's doing well now. This is specifically for Apples, who's like, oh, Andy's turning this around. This is why I told you to just wait. Because I knew this was going to appear, and I knew that it was going to shoot his credibility out of him.
And
my thing is,
I will throw in there, the reason why I said it could move around in my list is because out of the 7 cards I've revealed so far, it's probably the worst. But
my issue with this card,
it's so severely underrated, underplayed that it belongs in here. It's it's the least valued of all 7 cards. So even though it's the worst, it's definitely underrated when you consider the ratio of how good it is versus how little.
I think my issue with this card is I don't ever want to be playing a cleaver. I don't play cleavers just to go face with them. I use cleavers defensively, and I just think you can't. This card takes out the main reason I want to play a cleaver. And that's probably my main reason for not liking it. And then when you play it, and you can't be sacrificing really small stuff because then someone just shock rocks it. I don't know. I never liked whenever I tried it. It always felt like I could never get value out of it, and it just never felt fun to play. That's
But you
why.
get like, see, this is why you run it in twos and pre-made twos, is because you will never lose to a shock rock, and because you play it with blood imps, then
Bullshit!
you.
I feel like it's almost worse than twos, pre-made twos, because then there's going to be more
It is
spells to
so
answer.
bad in pre-made twos. Do you understand how bad that
You have
card
to
is
run
in
it with
pre-made
Whirly Strat
twos?
too. This it should go without saying, but you have to run Whirly Strat when you run this deck, and possibly
So wait,
also Shield card.
I think
So wait.
I think if you bring some AOE stuff and try and go face it, it can work. But it's just hard to line. But it's like if your opening deck doesn't line up, it's then it just sits in your. I don't know. It's all those cards you have to line up with a specific card, and I don't.
But if you're
play
in
that far.
twos, there's so much more opportunity to line your decks up and
That's
just
fair.
work together. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, but in pre-made twos, you have the opportunity to run real cards. Real cards with real synergies.
You know, out of context, I would have to disagree with the statement you're making, because real cards don't exist in twos compared to ones. The realness of cards comes out in 1v1s more than it does in 2v2s, but that's just, you know.
All right, Schilling. What is your number 2 on this list?
This card, I'll be honest, I only really see Westland play it, but I think it's a decent enough card. And I think people should play it more often. As a removal, it's a bit... You have to change your playstyle a bit to make it work as a removal at top value, but it's still something that I don't see a lot of players running a lot of, and it's Wheel of Doom.
I knew that the second you said a card I'm playing a lot of.
To be honest, I only see, like, you play it, and I think it's actually a decent card. Also, very underrated, it's how much fun it is to play twos with someone and then make them lose because you're running Wheel of Doom with triple Blood Imps and you Wheel of Doom their own Blood Imps. It's very fun for me.
Okay, well...
That's not a use of the card I think I should encourage, but I like Wheel of Doom. I think it's a strong card. I do agree. I think people are coming back around to the idea of Wheel. Wheel especially, I think, is very good because it's one of the best answers to Crossbow Guild or XP Shrine or a lot of other building decks. And yes, I do think it went down because Scrat Tank and Divine Warrior are great counters to it, but I think people are figuring out how to play around those more. I think it's a very strong card. It trades mana positive with a lot of minions. I think it's just a very strong card overall, but not many people run it. I see more people run Fireball as their 4-mana removal than Wheel of Doom, and I think Wheel of Doom actually works better in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think if you can set up those big wheels, it becomes the best spell for it. Like, it's situationally overpowered, but it's like when it's useful. I love because it answers twins. Like, you just set up twins and just lose it to 4 mana, and you can't do anything about it. I mean, I don't know. I love the card. Anyways, on to Andy.
Number 2, Dragon Pack.
All right. I knew this was going to be our crossover. I knew this was coming. Here we go. Tell us why you love this card.
I think I will argue with you. I think it had to be higher rated than you gave it.
Okay.
I think putting it in my 2 spot is very much more correct than putting it in the number 8 spot.
Incorrect.
I
am okay with Dragon Pack being rated like an underrated but a mildly underrated card, saying it's the second most underrated card in the game. Andy, you are on crack.
It's second most underrated card in the game because it is easily one of the top 20 best cards in the game, but most of the playing community of this game views it as one of the worst 20 cards in the game.
I would say a lot of people...
It's so polar opposite that this card is unbelievably underrated.
I can't.
Andy,
I hope that someday we do a top 10 list and you guys just like 100% crossover, so you can't yell at each other.
Andy, I have a quick question. I have a quick question for you.
What's up?
Do you even play Minion Masters?
No, the card's not bad, Schilling. It's actually good.
I don't think the card is bad, but calling it a top 20 card is so far from accurate. I cannot fathom how Andy was ever considered a decent player at this game.
He is a decent player at this game.
You can flip
so
this,
washed
if
up.
you can have a deck completely centered around this deck, and it will be one of the top KPI
Dragon
decks.
Pack
It will be
compete.
one of the most
I think our
viable
boy,
tournament decks ever.
I think James has
I'm
busted
sorry,
this
you're
card
saying
out to some pretty good
you can
effect.
base an entire deck around Dragon Pack and it will compete
Yes.
against what? The 3 people not putting Defenso Chopper somewhere on their list?
Defensive Chopper fell off in tournament scene, I feel
Yeah.
like.
All right. I'm going to go on to my number 2. So this card is pretty unexpected because I hardly ever play this card. Like, it's terrible in Rappo, and no, I'm just fucking with you. It's Wheel of Doom as well. I love this card so much. It is so fucking fun to play. If you get, especially when you time it right, it's such a great Rappo tool because then you get because you can combine it with Daka to get something low so you can hit that back line. Like, when you learn to combine this, and if you can get good with timing this with a Black Hole, you could take out whatever they're trying to tank that bullshit with and hit everything behind it. I practiced that so much when the Escorts Twins deck was going on. I would Black Hole their Brutus and wheel everything behind it. Like, that was like, I love this card, and it saved me so many matchups where it just shut down decks. It can destroy decks completely just from the get-go. Like, they can no longer win on certain archetypes, just lose because this deck exists. Or because this card exists. Like, it alone can win you, like, matchups. Like, you could play a completely shit deck, and this card can win because of how powerful it can be. Like, I actually thought, like, when this card came out, Gamer was saying it was the #1 card in the game at that point, but a lot of people
at that point. Yeah.
At that point, like, there's been times where this card, just because of the meta, like, it's situationally the best card in the game in my mind.
Yeah.
But I still think a lot of the general community aren't playing it enough, and I think high elo players know this card is that good, and maybe it's a little bit less than they should be seeing. But when you talk about your average player, like, when people say what legendary should you craft, nobody's mentioning Wheel of Doom. Like,
not anymore.
I mean, it's probably because there's other things that compete in it. You know, that's how it is. Okay, so we are not now we are going to go and think about what we think the other people's #1 underrated card is. And I'm just trying to think of what I know about you guys. What card would be the most underrated card?
I feel like both of you know exactly what the fuck my card is, and I have not a slightest clue.
I'm trying to think of what yours is. It's something.
I'm gonna make a wild guess here, and Andy's gonna put Stixie as his #1.
Oh shit! It's definitely Stixie for Andy. Okay, Andy's #1 is Stixie. Mine is Schilling. Mine is going to be, think about a card that is probably a top 10 card, but people aren't playing because 2 other cards are similar. That's my hint. Because
I'm gonna guess Divine Warrior for this.
No. All right, and I
need more time to think about it. Shit.
It fills a similar role, and people do bring it in tournaments. Let's see, what would be Schilling's? What's that? Can you give us a hint, Schilling?
I'll give you the hint that it has appeared on someone else's list.
All right. Oof. Is it Walking Blind Date?
It is not Walking Blind Date.
All right. Okay, Schilling, what is your #1 underrated card?
My #1 underrated card.
Wait, let me throw out my guess.
Oh, sorry, we gotta wait for Andy's.
I got this shit. I can 200 IQ
might be
this.
Arcane Bolt.
Oh fuck! It's totally Arcane Bolt. That's my guess.
All right, Schilling. What is the
my
card?
card? Dan put this on his bottom 10 list, and it's one of the 5 worst decisions Dan's made this week.
Oh Jesus Christ! We're not touching on that on stream.
It is Arcane Bolt, #1 underrated for me.
See, this is your crossover with Andy's. You can't yell at him. You can't yell at each other for once.
Squid lost the bet. Squid lost the bet.
All right, we know what Andy's card is. So tell us why you love Stixie.
Yeah, it's Stixie. He's such a good boy, man. And same as Dragon Pack, except instead of top 20 versus people rating it as a bottom 20, he's top 10 and people rate him as a bottom 10. So the polar opposite effect comes in. So comes in yet again. He's
trades mana negative with almost every
Hey,
removal
Screaming
card
Scrat
in
doesn't
the
kill it
game.
anymore. Screaming Scrat doesn't kill it anymore, so there's that.
Yeah. Apples. Are you still wanting to go on? Oh, Andy got good at this. Look at his 3 most underrated. Look at those 3. You still want to be taking Andy's list.
the value is crazy. The survivability, the longer he's on the board, the value he gives is just exponential. Like after
Real
he's been on the
Fireball,
board for
Chain
2
Lightning,
minutes,
Arcane Bolt.
he's just like he's taken off and he's fucking flying. Like the game's practically over once he's spent 2 minutes on the board by himself. So, and they can't touch him if you play their cards right. If you play your cards right, he's fucking
Arcane Bolt!
black hole that shit.
All right, here is this one might be controversial, but I want to talk about this. I think this card is not just kind of good. I think this card might be one of the best cards in the game, and it will make my top 10 list. And people play these sniper cards all the time, but this one deserves to be played the most. I think it is better than the others. I
I
think
knew you were putting this card on
Bounty
your list.
Sniper.
You son of a bitch! This is the exact card I was talking about in our pre-talk.
Okay.
I said you better not put this card
No,
on your list.
this card is
Westlin.
so not rated appropriately.
This card
I'm
is rated
sorry, I'm
so
sorry.
highly.
No, it is
Everyone
not.
knows-
People are playing regular.
Everyone knows about
No,
Bounty
no one
Sniper.
knows. It's
Everyone knows about Bounty
You're
Sniper.
overrated. While everyone considers Bounty Sniper like one of the only cards that can beat Cat, like, oh, Bounty Sniper is underrated, even though everyone and their dog thinks Bounty Sniper is the best card in Mana Frenzy.
No, they don't.
It's
No,
one of the
it's
best
true.
cards
It's,
for XP,
people are playing.
And you're gonna go off how Succubus is a bad choice because people rate it too highly when everyone would have Bounty Sniper in their top 10.
Look at the
You
who's playing.
garbage streamer.
Who are people? Where are you finding the people playing Bounty Sniper other than like a handful of players? Like everybody's playing regular Sniper or they're playing like frickin' Sniper Squad, but everybody skips over Bounty Sniper. They go with the Sniper Squad. Bounty Sniper is the de facto best sniper in the game. Sorry, Stixie. He is the best sniper in the game. Bounty Sniper is so amazingly overpowered. It needs a nerf. It is better than all the other snipers, and no one's playing it. It wins you games.
I play it in every deck.
Okay, sure, you play it. Anyways, here is our straw poll for whatever the underrated card.
Yeah, but at least his
Or on
cards
best
aren't
list.
shit tier, Andy. I'm just gonna be honest. If I had to choose between playing Andy's top 10 underrated cards list or playing Andy's bottom 10 cards list, I would take his bottom 10 every time.
No, you wouldn't.
I would take his bottom 10 and I would laugh my ass off when his Stixie gets hard destroyed. Oh my
I think that's a little.
You could not play this list that I put together. For like all 10 of these cards, I argued that they had to be supported by other cards. So this deck wouldn't work. Your argument's dumb.
I think Bounty Sniper is still underrated. My reason for it's
Bounty
underrated.
Sniper is not
Yes, it
underrated.
is. It's so good. It's so much better than people are. It's like.
Everyone knows it's good.
Is it in your top 10 list? Because if it's not
And
in your
it's
top
not
10
even
list,
better
it's
than
underrated.
Stixie. It's not even better than Stixie, but everyone knows it's as good as it is.
No,
It is much better than Stixie. It is so much better than
It's the
Stixie.
number one card in the game. It is the best card in
Bounty
the game.
Sniper was literally my number 1 card on my top 10 list, and he's just like throwing out, it's underrated. Go home, Westlin, you're drunk.
I'm not drunk. I had
Yeah,
one
Wesley,
beer.
you're drunk on this one, man. I should have called this I should have called that this was your card. I called it in the pre-show that you were gonna put Bounty Sniper on your fucking list, and I thought that I scared you away from putting it on your list successfully, but I was unsuccessful apparently.
I am like the reason I didn't guess Bounty Sniper as his number 1 most underrated is because I thought no one in the MM community that respects themselves could be so stupid as to try to make the argument Bounty Sniper is an underrated card. I am so shocked. I am bamboozled. I am recontemplating my entire life.
No, I said I thought a card is underplayed. I think this
Someone
card should be showing up in every deck. And like, if it's not in your sideboard for a tournament, I don't know what you're doing. Like, this is the like this card you like if you're like for my tournament I had sniper in every list and bounty sniper in the sideboard, intending to swap in bounty sniper for almost every match. Like, this card is
Because
so
it's a good
impactful.
card and everyone knows it.
No, people are not playing it.
It's fucked because I'm mad at chat. They think that because you listed 10 good cards that your list is the correct list.
No, they're
we know that your
underrated.
10 cards are good cards.
Okay, one, talking about what like the very top players know is good. I'm talking about the general community. I think these, if you like had like the like typical players rank these cards would be way lower than they deserve to be.
I'm just saying, if you play a bounty sniper, every single person with removal will use it on the bounty sniper almost immediately. Even if it doesn't go mana positive for them, they'd use it on the bounty sniper. Because everyone understands bounty sniper is a good card and needs to be shut down early.
All right, hold on. Let's find it on a top 10 list. In a list in the top 20. Let's find it somewhere. You find somebody running it. Like, who's running this card of it? Like, people should be running it. My list was on cards that...
You don't run bounty sniper blind.
Yes, you do. It's that good. Play it with...
I mean, you can, but like, and it would be good, but like, as opposed to playing other cards, the less you would play blind.
I don't know. I like the card a lot. All right, let's go. I think we got some votes in for the results. All right, guys. We had 5, 6, 7,
Chad
8.
doesn't understand the fucking vote,
We had
man.
8 votes. I had 5 people vote mine of the 8 votes. You guys got 2 and 1. And let's quick look at. I'm gonna quick look at the ladder. I'm gonna see if I can find a list with bounty sniper. I would be surprised.
I'm gonna make a guess here that the only person who voted for Andy was Andy himself.
Why gotta be that way, man? Come on.
Ouch.
Because you put Gorak's Sacrifice in your list.
It's underrated. It's such a bad card, but people say it's like a negative value card, but it's not. And so it's underrated.
It is a negative value card.
No,
It
it's
is
not actually a
100%
negative value card. The
value
value is
card.
actually crazy if you played in pre-made 2s.
Yeah, there is one bounty sniper in all of the top 20 lists. From all 3 queues. I think I rest my case. It's good. It's underrated.
How many Gorak sacrifices in the top 20? Riddle me this.
0! Which is the correct number! I mean, are you going to go argue Thelic is underrated because you're not going to find Thelic anywhere? No, the reason you don't find
I'm telling
Thelic
you,
anywhere
Gorak
is because Thelic
sacrifice
trash
is the
tier.
worst card on my list, but it's at least like the 30th or 20th worst card in the
I just have to
game.
question it.
But like
Wait,
people
Andy,
think it's the number
Andy,
1 worst card in
Andy,
the game, and it's not.
Andy, how are you so drunk that you put Divine Warrior in your bottom 10, but no, not Gorak Sacrifice?
Because Gorak Sacrifice is better than Divine Warrior.
All right,
Easy
we're done
flat.
with his old top 10 list. We are... All right, guys, we need to wrap it up now, though. Everybody, thanks for
Relatively,
coming.
anyways.
There is also... if you want to go scroll down below at my channel at Twitch TV / Duck Westland. I also have a YouTube channel. I also have a Discord. I make announcements for this on the Discord, and then we rage about picks there. On top of that, see what else goes on in there. Not much, but you should be there because I might be trying to utilize some of your guys' input for some polls, and maybe we might have a community poll as well sometime instead of just having our 3 lists up here. We might be able to make fun of the community as a whole, and we get to rage at them instead of raging at each other for once. Also, I'll be back next week with another show. We do this weekly. I'm trying to bring on the previous KPC winner, Acer. He said he might be able to show up, so I'm looking forward to that. And might be doing another top 10 list, so we can all be anticipating a lot more anger. And hopefully we'll try and get back to some of the other stuff that we've done that are other than top 10 lists, but I think these have been fun to do, and I really appreciate everybody coming in here and making fun of us while we do this. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by. SquidSchilling and Andy, thanks for being on the show, and obviously not for being too toxic, because we'd never want any of that. Uh,
I've never been toxic in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.